Welcome to the Unzip Mind podcast. My name is Nick Smith. I'm here with Greg Minikis, Dylan Jessen, and Brea Chan Strong.
You got it.
Ooh, I almost messed that up there.
I was like, what last name are you going to give me right now?
Double last name.
It's a surprise last name.
It's the hyphenated last name.
Yeah.
We're just going to give you a third one. We're going to gift you a third last name just
fine.
for your podcast persona.
That's fine. There's a fun story with that, though, my last name.
Oh, is it?
It's hyphenated.
Oh.
It's my shortened maiden name.
Oh, yeah.
And then hyphenated with my husband's name.
Smart way to do it. I've seen your maiden name. It is pretty long.
It's very long. Yeah. Did you Google search me? Is that how
No,
you
I
found?
think I just saw your signature, and it's like a long Thai name, and it's really cool.
Oh.
And I'm sure it's very beautiful when
Really
pronounced
studied
correctly.
that
But
signature.
I know.
How do you pronounce your maiden name?
Jantarabanchan.
hell yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love those Thai names.
Yeah,
They're
I
so
can
cool.
see why you shortened it and hyphenated. That would be a lot of.
It's 16 letters long, so there wasn't like I
You
wasn't
need a
about
big
to
space.
hyphenate that, but it was really important for me to like hold on to that cultural piece. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to shorten it, and that is actually like the root name of our Thai name, which is has roots in Chinese. So
Okay.
so that's what it is.
Oh, it's way
Cool.
better than Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today our topic is going to be names and the etymology of names. Just kidding.
not.
Brea's back on. This is your second appearance.
Yeah.
We are very excited to have you back.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
What
to
are
be
we
here.
talking about today?
Well, before we go into what we talk about, I'm just going to like throw out for people that don't know me and they're like, who the heck is this lady with the name thing? So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist is what my like degree is in. Okay. But I am licensed in Washington and Oregon, but not practicing in Oregon. And so I work with folks in community mental health, doing individual therapy right now. And so yeah, I'm here to talk with you all today, going back to your question.
Yeah.
Here to talk about body image
Cool.
and all the things that can go along with body image. And to kind of start off, I actually have a little activity for all of you to
Very
do
exciting.
to kick this conversation off. So I know you all are very active participants. I had my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, help me with supplies. So each of you are going to get a piece of paper and a marker that she handpicked for all of you. Okay. So hopefully they work. I said, make sure you test them and they're not the dried out markers.
Mine is blue. Good choice.
Okay.
We're not just
So,
active. We are hyperactive participants.
I want that blue one.
okay. No fighting. All right. So what I'm
No.
going to ask you all to do, and this is going to be slightly challenging and that's the point. Okay. But I'm going to have you all close your eyes. There's a little test. Okay. So close your eyes. And I want you to draw a picture of yourself on this paper. Picture of what you look like.
With my eyes.
With my eyes closed?
With your eyes closed. Yeah, that's the challenge. That's the challenge.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Definitely
I know.
starting with the head here.
Do your best. So I'm going to give you like a minute to do this. And just draw what you look like. What represents you? How do you see yourself? A picture of you.
I want to open my eyes so bad.
I
Figure
know.
out where I'm at.
I don't.
I
I think
know.
I'm drawing over everything. I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay. Just do your best.
My sort of spatial awareness is probably failing me right now.
This is
I'm
a
good.
shame-free space, everybody.
I've capped my pen.
Shame-free space.
Can I open my eyes once I cap my pen?
Yes, you may
Alright,
open
cool.
your eyes.
Oh,
Okay,
my.
open your eyes.
Oh, jeez.
Ah,
I was drawing over.
Okay, so let's share real quick. So what do you got?
I definitely drew a T-shirt, but it was over my ear. Where my ear was supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah, like Dylan said, it's a little all jumbled together on my paper. Had good intent,
Okay.
but one solid circle, and then a bunch of random lines.
What was the focus? What was the important thing to come across for you when you were drawing this image?
I was definitely going with the classic stick figure body. Big head. Oh, that says a lot.
Nice.
But big head. I did a
Okay.
big circle head and then stick figure body. That was my
Okay.
focus. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do you got?
I managed to keep the sort of proportions relatively even, to my surprise.
That looks really good. Great.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you.
Yep.
It is. That's very good.
Gave myself some curly hair, gave myself a little beard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what was your focus? Like,
Um,
what did you really want to make sure was captured in your picture?
I don't know, just kind of like average body shape, or just kind of beard and hair, and just kind of I was going for accuracy,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For accuracy.
I guess.
Interesting.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
I'm not going to psychoanalyze that. Okay. Okay. Go.
You want to.
Probably
You
a lot
want
going
to
on.
so
I
bad.
want to. I'm not going to.
Get into that later.
I drew kind of a stick figure, but like one side is a little chunkier, and then I just drew a stick figure, and then like everything else is stick figure, and just like a regular little
Yes.
stick figure head.
Pretty sure that's a kanji.
What's a kanji?
Okay, just like a Japanese character. That means bad drawing.
I guess we
Oh.
could show our drawings too.
Damn,
to the
you
Yeah.
camera for-
Show
I
the
thought this was
drawing.
the whole time. I thought this was a non-judgmental space. And
Sorry.
this guy
Hey,
over
that's
here is
just
like,
shame-free.
That
But-
hurts, Greg.
But okay, did you say one side's chunkier than the other?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was that intentional?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because like I'm a fat kid stuck in a little body, but then like I'm also like tiny and scrawny. So
Oh.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
like I'm
The
telling you,
body-
you should see my diet. It is Pringles, chips, sweets.
Okay.
Mine's the same without meat reservations.
Yeah, and then I only eat fish and
Okay.
cheese and eggs. So I'm pescatarian, but I'm like hands down the least. Like yo, I will house a plate of tater tots. all
Okay.
day long.
So fat kid stuck in a little body.
Yeah.
All right. Really focused on accuracy.
Accuracy, yeah.
And big head over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
It's a big head.
this is not a name calling.
Yeah.
This is just identifying things that stood
Yeah,
out
yeah.
for me, which yes, if we were in therapy together, I would like go into that further, right?
Yeah.
But so this is a little exercise that certainly can absolutely be done in therapy. But it focuses on how you see yourself, and it helps people to really identify what stands out for them. So folks with body dysmorphic disorder, that is a disorder where they're really hyper focused on some aspect of their body. So if they were drawing a picture like this, they might really emphasize like their nose. So when they're drawing, they might draw like a really big nose or something, or if they're focused on their ears, really big ears, right? And folks with body dysmorphic disorder also, they do things like a lot of mirror checking or a lot of comparing themselves to other people out there, right? Walking down the street, or social media, which is another really big influence.
Yeah.
So I hope that this exercise provided a little bit of insight into just how you see yourself a little bit, and get an idea of how folks with body dysmorphic disorder, how that might look different
Yeah.
for them.
No, it's it's a very interesting exercise. And like one thing, is this kind of also follows the same line of, because I've heard there is also a exercise where in front of a mirror and drawing on a mirror of what they see, right? So
Yeah.
in real time you can see
Oh,
like
yeah.
how different the image is, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking about that, but like when I had my eyes closed and stuff, part of me was like, I don't really want to draw what's like, I was just going to draw a line, right? And I was like, that's not, and I just kept thinking about, I was like, but that's not the shape I see, right? Or think about, because like, yeah, it's a fat kid in a small body, right? It's what it is. And it's like, I make a joke about it because it is, but like at the same time, myself, I have a hard time with weight, right? Like I have a hard time keeping weight on, which blows my mind, because if I didn't have a high metabolism and if I wasn't active like I am, I would have health issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
And-
it's just like a realization.
And you still might. I mean, you still might be having some health issues, even if weight, like
Probably.
excess weight, isn't one of them.
Yeah, probably.
You know.
But
I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just
No,
saying,
you're right.
like,
No, you're
the
probably
health at every size
He's like,
concept.
get to the doctor and check this out.
which I have, so I know
No.
I'm okay right now. But yeah, it's just, it is very reflective, and it just definitely makes you, because when you have a very targeted, like how targeted our thought was with that, like we had to like think about it. It was, yeah, it just was eye opening.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
and you keep your eyes closed while you do this activity, because it really forces your mind to focus on particular things.
That was
right?
really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I really didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. that was really. But, go ahead.
I also, one small comment, I really don't like how Greg draws so much better with his eyes closed than I can with my eyes open. That makes me a little
If you had taken my
uncomfortable.
approach, I'm sure you
Is
would have done
there some
equally well.
judgment? Is there some judgment?
Was your
No,
approach make you open your eyes?
That's
No.
happening
Okay.
here.
No, I just
But to go off what you were saying, Dylan, like I get a lot of those. I just feel like a lot of people don't understand that either. That they look at me and think that I'm in shape. I am the most out of shape individual, even though my body may appear that way because I have a fast metabolism, or because I'm a low weight. Like I am. Again, I don't drink water. I don't, besides work, I don't really exercise much, and I live off Hot Pockets and TV dinners most of the time, popsicles. So. But I struggle with those same things or difficulty with that being in conversation of people who are like, oh, I wish I had what you talk about your metabolism. I wish I had that, or and those are difficult conversations to have for people to understand that other side and understand that just like someone else might swap with us, our metabolism or our weight, we would do the same,
Yeah. And I think it's also important to point out, which I mentioned prior to us starting the show, that body image is something that impacts everyone. Like this isn't like a woman's problem, right? This is everybody.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about body image, it's really important to know that it's normal, right? Like for you to judge yourself, for you to look at other people and compare, yes, that's a thing that we all just kind of do normally. You can go back, we were talking about like the what's the word, the prehistoric, right?
Yeah,
like roots of why that happens, right? We
Yeah.
compare ourselves, and there's a reason why that we do that.
It's that survival instinct.
Yeah, that's survival instinct. But obviously it's evolved over time
Yeah.
where now body image is so much more. Like it's a picture of someone's stature, right? It's not just about their health, right? Are they healthy or
Yeah.
not? It's like, oh, they look like they're really well taken care of, and they've got the good figure, right? So
or at least the figure that looks like the figures that I see in Hollywood
Exactly.
and on social media.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that all kinds of people can suffer from body image issues. I in particular, I follow a lot of like martial artists on Instagram. And so, yeah, I mean, I get inspired a lot by watching them, but I also get really down on myself sometimes. I'm like, yo, these guys are shredded.
Yeah.
And maybe they've always been shredded. And I've always just been like, I take care of myself enough to be able to practice my martial arts, but also, lazy, and I eat too much. Like I eat mostly, real food, but like I eat too much of it. And so like I've always just had like excess fat. And so I wear like baggier clothes sort of to compensate with that. It's definitely something I struggle with a lot. But one thing that I've heard just sort of following the subject is that young women in particular do have, so like agreed, anyone can suffer from this, but I think there are particular pressures that young women, especially like teenage girls, face nowadays.
Absolutely.
The amount of like makeup influencers that you find on YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms. Beauty. I want to say the first word that comes to mind is gurus, but like beauty related influencers. All the sort of like Brazilian butt lift phenomena and like Botox injections and all these things.
Because it's
like,
profitable for us to hate ourselves in the way that we look, right? It's profitable. So why would we, like, why would they market like you're good just the way you are? That's not going to sell anything,
No.
And this is something that obviously a lot of younger girls, they don't understand that. They have no concept of that, understandably. Like they're little, right? But they see all of these things like, oh, if I look this way, then I'm beautiful. If I have this type of hair, then people are going to want to be my friend, right? So it is so important, and this is something we'll talk about later, but it's just so important to have healthy conversations about that.
The marketing is just so insidious for so many of these products. Like, I don't see as much of it from the male perspective. What I see is like, are you small and skinny? Like, you need to try this 30-day, like $300 workout regimen.
He's not wrong.
It's like I saw this one ad recently. It's like, what does a calisthenics body look like? And it was like 3D shoulders, strong legs, defined abs. And it's like, oh, well, so if you don't have those things, then you don't have a calisthenics body. So you have an unattractive body. And so you should pay for this calisthenics course so you can get this way. But I think it's even worse for women because it's like, maybe you're a young woman or a girl, you already have a skincare routine where after you shower, you put on some lotion that you got from your local grocery store. But then you're on TikTok and you see this ad. You're like, are you still using that grocery store face cream? Like, you need to try blah, blah cream.
It's so targeted.
Yeah, it's only like 30, it's only like $80 for a little tube. But like, if you want, I mean, it's not if you don't want to have good skin, that's fine. But I'm just telling you, like, if you just buy this product, you'll have good skin. I'm just saying.
Right.
Like, I think it's just very manipulative.
And then how disappointing it is for the girls that buy the thing and it doesn't work, right? And so it just perpetuates this really, really harmful personal narrative of I'm not enough.
There's something that's wrong with me.
I'm not good enough.
Even if I buy the expensive skincare product that I'm lucky enough to be able to afford, which is not the majority of people, like, even then I'm still not good enough. There's something broken about me. And all these products and all this marketing, I think, really causes people to have that sort of unhealthy relationship with their bodies and their image.
And I'm seeing some marketing now. Actually, there was I don't know if you all have seen it, but there was a Dove commercial that I saw just, I don't know, popped up on my Facebook or something. But it was talking, it showed a mom and her daughter, and it was like this evolution of how the daughter saw herself. And somehow Dove was tying it in that about positive body image. Like, it's important for you to see yourself more than just for what you look like, essentially. But it was just interesting to me that Dove was like hopping on this bandwagon, and the evolution showed this girl ending up having an eating disorder and like going to treatment. And
this is all in a soap commercial?
It was yes.
That's a heavy commercial.
It was a very heavy commercial, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I have kind of mixed feelings about it because I'm like, okay, well, cool, like, way to raise awareness, right, about body image. But then at the same time, I'm like, it makes me feel really uncomfortable that this is still just like a marketing ploy. Like, I don't like
because
that.
I've seen because Dove for a little while has been in the game of body image and supporting positive body image,
right?
Because of like their underwear lines and stuff, and like their natural body lines in all shapes,
right.
Where they do keep doing these like mess ups, they keep doing these like pushing too far. Because there was one point, I don't know if you saw these ads, I don't know if you guys were familiar with this, but Dove's marketing did their body like shampoo and whatnot, their like body wash line by body, like they made all the bottles different shapes. And like body shapes to emulate body shapes, but it became like, if you're this body shape, this shampoo's, or this one's for you, or if you're this body shape, because like that's how it came across, right? And like the marketing campaign was not that great for it, and it was 100% a flop. It was like a big flop, and that's why you don't see it anymore. But like,
I missed that.
That's a little forced, a little cringy.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like there needs to be awareness to it, but I love. Because I want to bring it back to the statement you said, because I think that's a really powerful statement, that people are profiting off of other people's misery, right? The only way they make, you have to not be good enough to want their product, right?
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, though, if we need to not make people's misery their profits, and we need to not make people's recovery their products either. So like, you need to figure out how to market products ambiguously and in a way that you're not targeting somebody's images or somebody's ailments, right? In a sense of like, either perpetuating the idea that you're not good enough and or overstepping, right? And like going into that world of like cringiness, and then marketing off of people's recovery of like they're finally getting it, they're understanding their body, they're there, and then now you're gonna play on that fact and you're gonna be like, this is gonna help you. No, it's not. It's a product. Relax, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
what's going to help them. What's going to help them is the therapeutic process. So support that. I don't know. Just when you were talking about that, that's what came in my mind.
I have mixed feelings about it because they're trying to raise awareness of the idea of body positivity and body acceptance. So I guess that's good, but it's also clearly virtue signaling in order to just sell more products. And that I'm just uncomfortable with. I just don't like these big corporations just telling me what my value should be or what their values are. And even if those are my values, there is something almost like appropriative about it. Like you're just there are all these activists who are like trying to put forward the concept of body positivity, all these psychologists, therapists. And then like Dove just kind of like jumps on the bandwagon because like not really to move the needle. I don't think that they have a pro-social agenda. That's just my bias for these big companies. I think they're just trying to sell more products. Right. So I'm uncomfortable with that. I have mixed feelings because like if it increases awareness of body positivity or spreads that message, maybe that's a net good. But so I don't know. I don't think any of us have sort of like a very solid objection to it, but it's just like it's a little cringy.
Oh, well, awareness is good, right? But it's always important to dive deeper with things, right? Like don't just see things at face value,
right?
But actually dive deeper into what it is.
Like, can you explain for us and for listeners, like let's talk about it directly. Let's talk about body dysmorphia directly, right?
Yeah.
So could you just explain, like, for listeners and for us, like, what is body dysmorphia in the sense of like its base level? Like, what is it?
Yeah. So it's in the DSM. So if we're talking like actual diagnoses, it's in the compulsive disorder section of the DSM. So it's actually an anxiety-based disorder, and it is just as common as OCD. Actually, yeah. And it also oftentimes is something that accompanies eating disorders. It doesn't have to, but it usually does.
Yeah.
And so someone who has BDD may also have anorexia or bulimia. And then those are other things that you also have to address in treatment. And of course, they may also struggle with depression as well, right? Or they might engage. You would ask me about self-harming behaviors. Sure. Yeah.
I want to dig into that relationship between BDD and other disorders, but just to sort of tie the knot on this social media conversation, I think so. The sort of idea of health at every size and sort of fat acceptance, these are relatively new concepts, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no. And again, this kind of goes into part 2 a little bit, but like body positivity is actually something that originated in the 60s.
Okay.
So it's been around for a while. It started for kind of sort of different reasons a little bit, but yeah, it's been around for a while. But I would say, I guess in the last maybe 10 years or so, maybe it's picked up some more steam in other ways. But.
So relatively recent, what has been happening for much longer, is this dynamic of advertisers creating anxiety in order to sell products. So you see maybe in the old days, 60s, 70s, I mean, it was way worse back then. It was egregious back then. But you'll see these ads, which is like still using this regular shampoo. Like, is your hair not having that perfect thing? You need to try the hairspray. Like, so you'll look your best, and so your husband won't be embarrassed to bring you to his dinner parties to show off his trophy wife. So I think that's what it was like back then.
For sure, yeah.
More recently, like very recently, there's been this sort of body positivity movement, but even in this modern era where people have more awareness about these kinds of things, I think in some ways there's more pressure than ever, just because the images of these.
Well, it's everywhere now, right?
Yeah. Like everywhere. It's on everybody's phone.
Yeah.
So are you seeing in the clinical realm and like in where we're at right now, are you seeing an influx in people being diagnosed with BDD? I would say, like, let's put it in a better context, like within the past 10 years, right? So like with this biggest surge of technology, right now that we have these phones in our pockets all the time, and we have this influence of constant media.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not just you go pick up Vogue, or you can go pick up a magazine, another magazine that puts these models or these images in front of you, tells you what you need. But now it's always around us.
For sure.
Do you think that has caused or causation correlation?
I'm sure there's a positive correlation between the more that it's out there in the world, and therefore the more people are impacted by it. And I also think that it is something that is more acceptable for people to actually address, right? Whereas like maybe in the 50s, that was not something that was even a topic of conversation for a woman to say to a doctor or heaven forbid, right, as a psychologist or a therapist, that they don't feel like their body's good enough, right? That's not a conversation that was happening, I'm sure.
Well, I think part of the taboo is just there's this expectation that, like, for women specifically, like a woman's duty back then was to become this sort of perfect wife, perfect looking, perfect home, everything perfectly clean because she's expected to be cleaning all day. So like this was so institutionalized that like there's almost no reason to bring it up because every woman had those pressures pretty much back then.
Right.
So it's like, well, I mean, why would you even tell your psychologist that you're having these anxieties when the expectation that you will have those anxieties so that you'll keep buying the products and keep sort of, not eating enough so that you keep that trim figure and all that.
And then the other thing that I think is really important to touch on is how that applies to trans folks as well. That is something that obviously it looks a little bit different, right? But that is something that I talk with my clients about, my clients that identify as trans, because their idea of what their body should look like is very different.
The idea of passing, like what is required in order to pass as the gender that you feel that you identify with. There's definitely a lot of there's a big relationship between sort of like body positivity and also sort of like gender affirmation and acceptance, like the idea that like you are good just the way you are. I think that's a powerful concept that we can discuss. But let's talk about the relationship between body dysmorphic disorder and other disorders. When someone does have BDD, what other kinds of behaviors or sort of what are some common themes that come up with these people, with people in like maybe ways that are not directly related to their body image issues?
Oh gosh.
Depression. Tell me about
depression. Like other disorders
and just problems in their lives.
Well, one of the big things is the family cultural component, right? So like how they grew up, how they were raised. If they are individuals who grew up in a home where the way that they looked was very important, right? You always have to have your hair a certain way. You can't leave the house without making sure you got clean clothes on, right? Or what you eat, right? How much you're eating. And people, parents making comments about, oh, don't eat too much, you're going to get fat, right? That is something that, of course, largely is going to contribute to the way that they view themselves. And I certainly have had clients that have had parents that have said that their parents would actually point things out on their bodies,
so uncomfortable.
that there was something wrong with them, right? And so certainly those are things that lend themselves to a body dysmorphic disorder.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been in my 30s that I've really realized some of the things that were said to me or some things I've experienced, have impacted me throughout my life that I haven't really paid attention to. But one of them is, growing up, I was told I was dumb and ugly quite a bit, mostly in very joking demeanors, but it was very consistent and very often. And I realize now in my later life that even just hearing that so regularly as I'm growing up plays into my own insecurities and plays into my own, thoughts of myself.
It's shocking considering how smart and handsome you are.
And then
thank you, Sherry.
and then the cultural component too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I've shared with you guys, so I'm half Thai. So the Asian idea of beauty and the way that they communicate to you how you look is super offensive. And it is not meant in a necessarily offensive way. And at the same time, that doesn't mean that it's not hurtful and that it doesn't cause someone to really question their body when comments are made about like, oh, you're so skinny and beautiful, right? Or, oh, don't eat that, you'll get fat, right? Like
the skinny and beautiful thing is especially insidious because you could be sitting at a table next to your sister or whatever, and grandma says to your sister, oh, you're so skinny and beautiful. And then you're sitting next to your sister. Nobody said anything to you. So now you're now maybe you felt fine in your body before that, and then you start thinking like, well, oh, so she is and I'm not. What's wrong with me? What's going on?
Absolutely, and that absolutely does happen. Or maybe you have like one sibling who is skinny, and the other one maybe has a larger body, right? And then there's a lot of comments that are being made about this sibling with the larger body. Right? Like that's going to have an impact on you. And that's going to have an impact on how you how you view other people, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to then even more so be comparing yourself to that. Now, again, with body dysmorphic disorder, we're talking about a hyper focus on a particular aspect. And so it is literally going to be an obsession.
Yeah. So are you treating individuals with BDD with similar interventions as people with OCD?
Yeah. So so exposure therapy is a big form of treatment for compulsive disorders. And so what that would look like with someone who has BDD would be, say, someone felt really, again, uncomfortable about their nose, right? And exposure therapy would be you having them go out in public without any makeup and just showing their face.
Yeah, I want to talk more about exposure therapy because I think that'll be a really rich topic to dive into in this area. But just to sort of wrap up our sort of discussion about culture and how culture influences, like it can be, I grew up in a pretty supportive household. Like my parents didn't body shame me at all. But when I was in college, I had roommates who all were like pretty slim, shredded guys. And there was one time I actually was not that self-conscious in those days. Like I felt like I looked pretty good. And there was one day when I had my shirt off and I was like doing pull-ups or something. I'm like kind of feeling myself. And one of my roommates was like, "Oh, you got a lot of fat, man." And like such a small comment, like I didn't feel like I did. But then after he said that, then I felt like I did. And I was pretty self-conscious, and I'm not sure if that, I think that might have led me on a sort of rabbit hole of sort of self-consciousness that I definitely am not out of yet, and I think that might have been either one of the origin points or close to it. And it's just odd how like a small offhanded comment to someone like me who I've no trauma history associated with this. I wasn't raised in a household where I was body shamed. Even me, who I'm not vulnerable to that really compared to other people might be. Like that messed me up. Like it's really like, and then that sort of self-consciousness that can lead to, as you mentioned, eating disorders. Like especially if you're constantly getting that kind of negative feedback, like anorexia, bulimia, that can easily result from that. Like we got to be really careful with how we talk to people. Not like stigmatizing them,
right? Just
for the shape of their bodies,
right?
That's really important.
One of the times when I was in Thailand, I remember I was in high school at this time and I was watching TV, and I distinctly remember there was a commercial that came on selling a product to make your skin white. And that I just remember was so fascinating to me because growing up in the States, it's totally different. Like you have people that are tanning,
Yeah.
right? But again, in Thailand, the idea of white skin means that you're not a field worker. It means that
Right,
you have money. You are able to stay indoors.
And this is pre-colonial, so this isn't just the influence of European powers. Like for probably centuries in Asia and other places, like the whiter skin is prized just because it shows that you're not a field worker. You're high class. You're not a peasant. And yeah, it's terrible. Like I've seen stats that like the amount of skin whitening cream sold in the global south, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's all just to meet this arbitrary standard that like really doesn't mean anything.
And it's still that way. I mean, the last time I was there was in 2014, I think. And my cousins there would still make comments about my skin, like, oh, your skin's so beautiful and white and
Beautiful and white.
yeah, right.
Those are one and the same in that case.
Right. So yeah, it's a thing. It's alive
crazy
and
out
well.
there.
It's
Yeah.
alive and well.
It is. So yeah, that I think a lot of people are struggling with that. I hope that some of the stuff that we touched on maybe made people. I hope some people are hearing some of this and realizing, like, A, you're not alone. Like, many of us, if not most of us, struggle with this to some degree. Whether you're a man, you're a woman, whether you're in the global south and they're trying to sell you skin whitening creams, or you're in California and you're seeing, like, there's just one ad near our work, which is like this blonde girl, and she has this like sad expression. Her skin's fine, her skin's perfect, but she has this like sad expression, and it's like before and then after she's like slightly tanner, and it's like, come do this tanning, and she's like all smiling and happy,
Right.
you know. And it's just like, so like all this anxiety is, so much of it is created by marketing, media,
Right.
corporations trying to sell stuff. And like I don't know
How we talk to each other.
yeah, and how we talk to each other, like, oh, you got a lot of fat, man. Like that comment, I still remember that comment. That was 10 years ago. So yeah, I'm trying to be sensitive about this stuff. I'm really trying to like be compassionate, and I encourage any listeners to do the same. Like, our words have a lot of power. Like you're good. You're just fine. You're beautiful just the way you are.
Well, on that note, thank you, Greg, for the words of positivity.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it. And like Greg said, be kind, use kind words, hold your opinions to yourself, and we appreciate you coming down and talking to us.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Come join us next week. We're gonna dive into the different styles, and there's different ways of looking at our bodies in positive and in different ways, and how we can accept ourselves for who we are. So we are excited to have you back next week to talk about that. And you can go ahead and if you like what we talked about, hit that subscribe button. Head on over to our Facebook. Let us know what y'all want to hear. Reach out to us. We love chatting with y'all. Thanks for coming and listening. Till next week.
Cool.
Bye.
Good.
Bye-bye.